Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Yeah, maybe after you.
نحمده ونصلي على رسول النبي الكريم. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. قال الله تعالى في شأن حبيبه إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما. اللهم صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد وعلى آل صل على سيدنا مولانا محمد صلاة تنجينا بها من جميع الأحوال والآفات وتقضي لنا بها جميع الحاجات وتطهرنا بها من جميع السيئات وترفعنا بها عندك أعلى الدرجات وتبلغنا بها أقصى الغايات من جميع الخيرات في الحياة وبعد الممات إنك على كل شيء قدير. صلاة وسلام عليك يا سيدي يا رسول الله. Last week, we were kind of reiterating things or points that we had made in the Eid Khutbah, and I'll kind of continue with that today, which is basically about Muslim unity and the situation of the Muslims today. And of course, the main verse that comes to mind is verse 103 of Surah Al-Imran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم واعتصموا بحبل الله جميعا ولا تفرقوا واذكروا نعمة الله عليكم إذ كنتم أعداء فألف بين قلوبكم فأصبحتم بنعمته إخوانا وكنتم على شفا حفرة من النار فأنقذكم منها كذلك يبين الله آياته لعلكم تهتدون. That hold fast all together to the rope of Allah and do not be divided, or so that you will not be divided. And then remember the favor of Allah upon you, that you were enemies to each other, but He, by His grace, put this affection and made you brothers. And He, subhanahu wa ta'ala, saved you from the pit of fire. And in so, in this is a sign for those who seek guidance. So unity in Islam is not based off of, as we said, not based off of any ism, nationalism, any other ism. All of these things have nothing to do with unity in Islam. The unity of the Muslims is a favor of Allah, so long as certain conditions are met. Just like, if you read in Surah Rum, the love between the wife and the husband, this is the mercy and the blessing and the favor and the mercy of Allah. The love between the brotherhood of the Muslims, again, is a ni'mah that Allah gives, a blessing that He gives, so long as certain conditions are met. And the condition is simple. It's not a very complicated condition. وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَاعْتَصِمُوا بِحَبْلِ اللَّهِ جَمِيعًا وَلَا تَفَرَّقُوا. That hold fast to the rope of Allah all together, so that you will not be divided. So as we mentioned last week, and I'll reiterate some points and then we'll move forward from there, inshallah, is, as Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has told us, the rope of Allah is the Quran. But even with this, and again, having more ulama, more muftis, more scholars, more hafiz, more this, more that, more of everything, more alimas, than ever before. We are more disunited than ever before. Because everybody, when they read the Quran, they get something different from it. You know, this is one of the unique qualities of the Quran, is that whatever you want, that's what you'll get. You know, when I'm talking to non-Muslims, this is one of the things I tell them. I said, if you want to love Allah, if you want to love Islam, if you want to love the Muslims, read the Quran. If you want to hate Islam, if you want to hate the Muslims, read the Quran. Whatever intention you come to it with, that is what you will get. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not in need of any of us or anything else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't simply send a book. If you look at the Quran is an oral tradition before it is a written tradition. But He sent the explanation to the book. He sent the walking, talking, breathing Quran, which is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And He sent him not only as the messenger, but as the message. And when He sent him, He made it an obligation upon us to love him. And not just love him, but to love him more than everything else in creation. He is the Quran. You know, when we look at this historically, you know, whenever there has been an issue amongst the Muslims, it always goes back to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to Ahlul Bayt. And this is why when Imam Ja'far Sadiq alayhi salam said, and again, as I said, Imam Ja'far Sadiq is not just anybody. He is a scholar, and he's not just any scholar. He is amongst the teachers of Imam Abu Hanifa. He is amongst the teachers of Imam Malik. He is that teacher who, if you trace back knowledge in any field, whether it's the worldly fields of sciences, physics, astronomy, biology, chemistry, anatomy, it all ties back to him. He's always tied in somewhere. And if you also trace back the Islamic knowledges, whether it's fiqh or hadith or anything else, again, it all comes back to him at some point. And then from him up. Back, of course, everything comes back to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He says, Hablillah, the rope of Allah, is Ahlul Bayt, which does not contradict what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said. Because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, what about the Quran? He said that the Quran and his household and the Ahlul Bayt will never be separated. You know, again, these aren't, you know, hadith in some strange book that no one's heard of. These are Sahih hadiths, you know, in books that are repeated many times. So he said that the Quran and the Ahlul Bayt will never be separated until they come and meet him at the Hawd on the Day of Judgment. Which makes this aspect of unity very interesting. Because if we look at the first civil war amongst the Muslims, which took place during the Khilafah of Sayyidina Ali Karamallahu Wajh, how did that civil war end? Who ended that civil war? That civil war was ended by the son of Sayyidina Ali Karamallahu Wajh, Imam Hassan alayhi salam, for whom Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said what? Inna ibni hadha sayyidun. that this son of mine is your master. And then he says, because of him, two large groups of Muslims will come to terms or come to peace. And this is what he did. So he united the Muslims who had been separated. So again, Muslim unity, if we want to know what Muslim unity is, if we want Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us unity, because again, there is no unity unless He puts it in us. There is no love for each other unless He subhanahu wa ta'ala puts it in us. And again, He says what? He says, hold fast to His rope. And that rope is the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the love of Ahlul Bayt. And it's interesting. We start talking about Ahlul Bayt, and then people are all up in arms about, oh, what about the Sahaba? What about the Sahaba? Look at the attitude of the Sahaba Ikram to Ahlul Bayt, and the attitude of Ahlul Bayt to Sahaba. Nothing but love. If you actually look at it. This is part of our issue today, or rather the issue today. As we were talking about last week, when you look at how the non-Muslims, and I hate saying this because it's not really true, how the non-Muslims divided the Muslims. The non-Muslims don't have the power to divide the Muslims in reality. All of the issues within the Muslims are internal. This is why during the Khilafah of Sayyidina Ali karamallahu wajhu, there was no battle with any group that claimed not to be Muslim. They were all internal issues. It's like when people try to blame Shaitan for what they do. All Shaitan does is he whispers. He makes a suggestion. It's up to us whether we follow the suggestion in our minds or not. And this is why in the Quran, what does Shaitan do when he whispers and somebody follows his whispering? He runs away, and what does he say? Inni akhafu Allah, Rabbul Alameen. He says, I fear Allah, the Lord of the world. It's Shaitan. And when Shaitan will be blamed, that, oh, you made me do this and you made me do this, he said, what will he say? He said, I didn't make you do anything. I just made a suggestion. You're the one who did it. Same thing with these people. When you look at the enemies of Allah and His Messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who are on the outside, who don't claim to be Muslim, what can they do? As we said, they always form a coalition. Al-kufru millah wahida. Disbelief is one when it comes to faith. Falsehood always unites against truth. This has been throughout history, and it will remain that way. Even we know when Imam Mahdi alayhi salam comes, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us what? Coalition. An army will be sent against him. And what will that army consist of? 80 flags. Underneath each flag, 12,000 troops. 960,000 man army coming against him. Again, coalition. Ahzab, the Battle of the Trench. What was that? That was a coalition. Today, what do? Coalition. This is the only way. But the coalition isn't simply on the outside. They always look for someone on the inside. Because they know that if they come as a coalition, external coalition completely, they will lose. Falsehood always loses to the truth. Unless, again, you can divide those who are trying to be on the truth from the inside. So again, if you look at history, this is what this is what has happened. Not what they've done, this is what they've tried. They've made these suggestions. When you look at, when the British came, and we talked about this last week a little bit, when the British came, to the Muslim lands, what did they do? Subcontinent is an easy example of this, because you had so many different cultures. People not looking the same, not dressing the same, not speaking the same language. Everything was different. The food was different. Everything was different culturally. Yet they were united. What were they united on? On the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is what united them. So this is what they realized they had to break. If they wanted to control the Muslims, they knew that they had to break this bond. Because of this bond, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put love in the hearts of the believers. If you look at the world today, there is no love anymore. There is no barakah anymore. Everybody complaining, I don't have enough time. Everybody complaining that, I don't have enough money. Nothing's enough. Why? Because all of the blessings have been taken back. Why? Because we are not adhering to that rope. We are not clinging to the rope of Allah, which is the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I mean, literally, you look at the scholars in the past. You have scholars that weren't even 50 when they passed away. And yet you look at the works that they did, and all the traveling that they did, and it's just, you wonder how they do that. This is barakah. This is the blessing of Allah. We don't see that anymore. Because we're not connected to the criteria that would give us that blessing. So what do? They come in, they realize, okay, we got to break this bond, so they buy scholars. Small things to begin with. And then they create scholars. So like I was talking about also last week, and kind of mentioned this, and I'll kind of go into a little more detail here. 1924. Ottomans had their issues. They had a lot of issues. But still, they were the rulers of the Muslims. Of course, today you have those people who say, you can't say anything against the ruler. Well, how did your ruler get into power? He fought against the previous ruler. So you're telling me your hypocrisy right away. 1924, British, who've been paying Abdulaziz 5,000 pounds a month, given the green light to come and attack Hijaz. He attacks Hijaz, they conquer Hijaz. Rasulullah said that when the people of Najd rule over the people of Hijaz, then prepare yourself for Qiyamah, for the end. This is our situation for the past century. And we see how quickly things are deteriorating. People think, what's going on right now there is something different, something new. Like they're allowing non-Muslims now to enter Medina Munawwara, to enter Mecca. The signs that say Muslim only as far as going to Mecca, those have all been removed. People think this is something new. After they conquer Hijaz, who does Abdulaziz make the governor of Mecca? Lawrence of Arabia. A man who never claimed to be Muslim, never pretended to be Muslim. It would be one thing if he claimed to be Muslim and pretended like he was Muslim, and then you could say, they were fooled. No, he never claimed to be Muslim. He never even pretended to be Muslim. And they make him the governor of Mecca. That in itself should tell you who these people are, who these people have been from the beginning. They are not the friends of the Muslims, they are the enemies of Allah and His Messenger. So what is going on now is nothing new. We just have short memories and we forget everything that happened. And they know this. And this is why, this is how governments, they know people have short memories. And so, you think about it, this is why if they want you to remember something, every few months, remember this, they bring it up. Every few weeks, they remind you of it. Because they know after about 6 months, it's gone. That's ancient history. But they also rely on it on the other aspect. When they want you to forget something, they don't mention it. They hide it. This is why, like the alcohol thing now, it's nothing new there. They didn't ban it until 1950. So they've been in power for 26 years, and it was fine. They banned it for a specific reason, which had nothing to do with Islam. These are not the people that are going to unite the Muslims. These are the people that have been put in place to keep the Muslims divided. And it should be very obvious now. I mean, like we keep saying, they tried to hide it in the beginning. They don't even try to hide it anymore. So it should be very obvious who they are, what their agenda is, who they work for. But people still don't get it. And they still, no, we're gonna accept their ideology, but we don't agree with their politics. It doesn't work that way. That's not how it works. The politics is driven by the ideology. If the ideology that they're presenting to you challenges the knowledge of Rasulullah, challenges the authority of Rasulullah, makes you not think about Ahlul Bayt, or if you do think about them, you think about them like anybody else. Then you should start questioning that ideology. And when Dajjal comes, and his fitna is already here, he's going to be very nice. This is one of the things that people say, like with my father, they would say, he talks so firmly or harshly. He's trying to make you understand something. Or some scholar who talks very firmly, why is he got to talk like that? I mean, listen to what he's saying. Shaitan doesn't come to the believer as a disbeliever and tell you, disbelieve. He comes as someone very nice, very polite, very convincing. Dajjal, when he comes, Dajjal is the deceiver. Deception means what? That it's not obvious. If it was obvious, it wouldn't be deception. So if he's the great deceiver, then he's going to present himself in a manner that people will flock to him. And this is also what Rasulullah has already told us all of this. If we choose to ignore it, because again, because we're locked into that ideology of, well, he didn't know this or he didn't know that, astaghfirullah. Rasulullah also told us at that time what will happen. One of the things he told us many things. One of the things he told us is that there will be 6 earthquakes in Medina Munawwarah. And not just minor earthquakes. 6 significant earthquakes in Medina Munawwarah. And Dajjal will land outside of Medina, and the people from Medina will run and flock to him. But he also explains to us that this is Allah's way of getting rid of those people. whose iman is like this. Allah protect us from that. But why will they run to him? Because he will bring food and relief. Those whose iman will be solid, they will know. They won't go to him. They will stay in the city. They will know where true safety is. So again, all of these things are happening before us, and people ask, why can't the Muslims be united? This is why. Because we have released our grip from that rope. We don't even know what the rope is. There is no Islam without Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That shouldn't be very complicated to understand. But some people, they make it complicated. Even the Jews. If you look at the Jews that were in Arabia, they also said La ilaha illallah. They had no problem with La ilaha illallah. Their issue was Muhammadur Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And it's interesting, if someone says Muhammadur Rasulullah, he has accepted Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah. Because he accepts Rasulullah, he accepts Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as the messenger of Allah. So it is a manner of specifying, because the Quraysh also mentioned Allah. They said, they said all these idols, these are the daughters of Allah. When they were attacking the people of Banu Khaza, when they broke the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, what did they do? They put masks on their face so that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wouldn't see them. This was their Allah, their concept of Allah. They also believed in Allah, but when you say Muhammad Rasulullah, you specify which Allah. This is the Allah who sent Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. This is the Allah who swears by himself through his beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Fala wa rabbika. Just that statement in itself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is swearing by himself. But no, he doesn't say that he swears by himself. He says, Fala wa rabbika. He says, I swear by no one other than your Lord, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is that rope. And because we have neglected him and forgotten about his Ahlul Bayt, we have released the rope and not even realized it. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not unite our hearts and make us brothers like he made the Sahaba Ikram. That there was no force, there was literally no force that could stand in front of them. And it wasn't their numbers, and we know it wasn't their numbers. It was their connection to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala placed this love and affection within them. And this is also why we see the condition of the ummah, that you have places in the ummah that are being abused, killed, annihilated. And these same powers that claim to be the defenders of the Muslims are the ones who are aiding. And not even subtly, directly aiding those who are killing the Muslims. And not just aiding them, but also going, when we look at what's happened in Yemen, and when we look at what's happened in Sham, directly going and killing the Muslims themselves, and still claiming to be the guardians of Islam. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala connect us back to that rope. And may He unite our hearts, and may He fill our hearts with His true love and the true love of His beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, his family, his companions, and all of those whom they love. And may He give protection and victory to our brothers and sisters in Gaza, and allow us to be useful for them. The brother will give the adhan, and then we'll make sunnah, and then continue, inshallah.